Yes, I know, the PlayStation 5 is finally here and I'm sure 5 of you want me to talk about it or some of the games I've played. Don't worry, I will. This beast was meant to be played. But for now, I really wanted to do a quick test for the PlayStation 2. As you know, the PlayStation 2 mostly used 480i or 576i interlaced resolutions for video output. For CRTs, this was fantastic and it worked great. Not so much today on our progressive scan TVs. Now, some PlayStation 2 games did utilise 480p progressive scan modes, and today we're going to see how 480p and 480i compare. To make it more interesting, I'm also throwing in the Line 4X mode for 480i interlaced content from the OSSC, just to see if it can make a big enough difference to trouble 480p. Let's get going. Right, Tekken 4 is first. This 3D fighting game is pretty underrated these days, but to me, it's more fun than you'd think, especially if you give it a good chance. Anyway, let's look at 480i Passthrough. Yes, it looks okay, but very blurry and a lot of detail is hard to see. Thankfully, the 4X mode is far sharper and more pleasant to look at. Well, apart from that vibrating look we now have. That's because the OSSC uses bob deinterlacing when upsampling the video output. Now, this method is fast and it means there's no added lag. The downside? You get visible shakes in the picture and it can put people off. I'm used to it, but it's not my favourite look. Still, side by side, it definitely looks better. 480p though is the way to go. It's cleaner, more detailed, and it really shows how great this game looked back then. Side by side, the 4X mode does give 480p a run for its money, but for me, 480p is the clear winner. All this using RGB Scart and not component video, by the way. While we are here, so Calibur II also has 480p just like Tekken 4. First though, the 480i mode. Huh? Is it me or does this look worse than Tekken 4? Side by side, the 480i quality is not the same. So Calibur II looks even blurrier and harder to see. I have no idea why this is the case, but it's very noticeable. Does the 4X mode help out? Yes, well, sort of. It's much sharper as expected, but it still looks smeary looking. I also noticed the background stands out a bit more using the 4X mode. You'd think the characters would be in focus a bit more, but I guess not. What about 480p? The good news is it's far sharper than the other methods, and now the characters and backgrounds are equally sharp. But notice the HUD elements. For some reason these parts are still blurry, as if they were rendered at a different resolution. Aside from this, 480p is the clear choice, even more so than Tekken 4. This is Hunting Ground. This survival horror game can make use of 480p. Usually this should be the best choice, right? I have to be honest, I had a hard time seeing obvious changes. Yes, the 480i mode is softer than the rest, but the 4X mode and even 480p modes look very similar. Even 480i keeps up to some extent. This game runs at 30 frames per second, so the wobble look of bob deinterlacing is lessened. In some moments, the game doesn't even shake. I have to be honest, while I would still pick 480p, this game looks great at all tested modes. It's a bit shocking, don't you think? Now it's black. Black seems to have similar results as Hunting Ground. All three results are almost identical.
Size plus and strength.
Copy. Let's not get caught sleeping.
Of course, the 4X mode and 480p are better.
And maybe they're getting ready for a garage sale.
The 480p mode is definitely the sharpest and cleanest looking output of the three, but the dithering is much more noticeable. PS2 games with dithering? Yes, even the 6th generation of consoles sometimes used dithering. This I never knew. Anyway, black will look good as long as you use component, S-video or RGB cables. If you are expecting composite to look anything like this, then... Tomb Raider Anniversary is a game that looks good already, and 480p should be the clear choice, right? Right? Well, no actually. For some reason I can't explain, I think the game is slightly sharper in its 480i modes than 480p. I mean, the game all around looks very jaggy and soft in any mode, but to see the 480p mode make no difference, or perhaps look worse in some ways, really shocked me. I can't understand how this is even possible. Without question, Tomb Raider Anniversary has the strangest and most perplexing use of 480p I've seen so far. Our last game for today will be Street Fighter Alpha Anthology. I'll be taking a quick look at Alpha 3, my favourite in the Alpha series. The good news? 480p is definitely the superior choice. It's a little sharper, and the vibrated look of 480i 4X mode is very distracting. It's pretty clear that games with a higher frame rate target makes the bobbly interlacing effect much more noticeable. It's still a decent way to play the game if you can't enable 480p. I do have more 480p PlayStation 2 games, but ultimately I felt I'd just be repeating myself, and these games showed the most interesting results when going from 480i to 480p. Some games utilise 480p better than others, and when it works, it can look great, even today. When it's not used well, it makes you wonder what the point of it is then. Almost as if the feature was tacked on instead of being made with that video output in mind. Of course, I would love to know your thoughts on PlayStation 2 games with 480p video output, and until my next video, I will see you soon.